as dancing apes. Would you condemn that video as racist?
I know that Joe Biden was in there as an ape as well, and I think
yes, but he's white.
I think look, it's terrible. It's not. We shouldn't be posting things like that. But as he said, it wasn't him. He's got a big group that's posting, and we know he's got a quirky sense of humor.
Quirky, very invoking Jim Crow stereotypes that have been used to justify slavery.
Very quirky. That
decades and decades.
I don't think it was intended, and I think it's unfortunate that it came out. So I would agree with you. It's unfortunate that came out.
Well, I wasn't asking whether it was unfortunate. I was asking whether you thought it was racist.
A Republican commentator came on British television to defend Donald Trump, and within minutes was describing a video depicting the Obamas as dancing apes as quirky. That was the word she used, quirky. Lewis Goodall's response was to point out that the ape trope has been used by slave traders and segregationists for generations to dehumanize black people and justify lynchings. Quirky. Then, when pushed on whether Trump had anything to say to Epstein's victims, Goodall reminded her that when a CNN reporter asked Trump that exact question, the president responded by asking why she does not smile more and attacking her ratings. Naughton called that tactless. Goodall said it was profoundly offensive to every survivor watching their president do that. And this is Fool's Ballot, so we are going to break down exactly what happened here and why it matters. Subscribe if you are not already there. Now let us get into it.
These Epstein files are shaking our politics, and they're a big story in America, but it doesn't seem that there are so many people paying a political price.
Well, if we think about the way Trump ran his campaign in 2024, and when he was asked about the Epstein files, he said he was pro releasing the files. And we know Trump is not somebody that's a pure man. He's never run on that sort of platform. And Trump himself is anti-establishment, anti-the elite. So this whole exposure of the Epstein files and the lengths that it goes to for the people involved in high power, whether it's in banking, private equity, entertainment world, or within politics itself, people that were high up in Clinton's administration being involved. This plays into Trump's whole narrative of the establishment and trying to get to the rot of it all.
But Trump's in the files repeatedly.
Yeah, but let's be clear. There are separate issues here. There are people who had a relationship with Epstein, nothing that was criminal. And then there are people who were involved in passing sensitive information so he could trade off of it. And there were people involved in sexual misconduct.
But Trump's relationship with Epstein does rather imply that he's part of that establishment that he decries.
Actually, if you look at Trump's relationship, it ended in about 2004. And Epstein...
But he's part of that world.
He is not part of the sexual misconduct. So there are a lot of people who are part
of the elite world of wealth and power. And
no, but it's the rot that's within a lot of these institutions. And Trump's platform was tried to restore the public trust in institutions.
Although Trump is saying he wants to move on. He thinks everybody should move on from the Epstein files.
I don't think everybody's going to move on, because I think what's really crucial here is the public trust. And it's what are our principles and values, and when will there be justice for the victims? And if it took so long for this to come to light, I ask, how many other Epsteins are there out there controlling our politicians and people in high power?
Well, it's interesting, though, you mentioned the victims. I mean, when asked this week by CNN's Caitlin Collins what the president had to say to the survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein's horrific abuse, Donald Trump responded by asking her why she doesn't smile more and attacked her for her ratings. What do you think that says about the president's attitude to sexual violence?
I think that was a tactless response, but I think what you're seeing within America on both Republican side and Democratic side is people want answers. We know Trump's style is not palatable for a lot of people, and I agree with you. It's a very tactless response.
I mean, it's not just tactless, is it? It's profoundly offensive. If you were listening to, if you were one of those victims watching that, you'd be looking at him and going, my president, when asked explicitly what he has to say to me, started to talk about why a woman didn't smile more and why her ratings weren't better.
Well, clearly he didn't want to discuss that there. As we know in the U.S., a lot plays out in the press, and he actually approved the Transparency Act for all the files to be released.
If our Prime Minister did that, he'd be out that day because it would be so grossly offensive.
And I understand that. But I think what's even more concerning is that our prime minister here, knowing that there was a relationship between Mandelson and Epstein after he was convicted of
that's more
sexual
concerning. That's more concerning than Trump having a relationship over many years with Jeffrey Epstein.
I would never post a video like that, and I think most people wouldn't be posting videos like that. So it's unfortunate that his team posted that video.
But you're aware of the provenance of that trope about black people being apes?
I'm aware that in the past, yes, there were some issues around that.
Well, you could say that again. It was used by slave traders and segregationists to dehumanize black people and justify lynchings. So do you think it's all right for the President of the United States, who is also president of nearly 50 million black Americans, to be putting out material like that?
I don't think it should be. It should have been put out, and I don't think the intent was that.
Why hasn't he apologized for it, do you think?
That I can't answer for Donald Trump. I know he did say, had he seen it, he wouldn't have liked it either. So that's his underway of apologizing, his behind the doorway of apologizing. But we know Trump's not good at apologizing.
Well, the president's press secretary actually initially dismissed it as fake outrage. That's very easy for her to say, isn't it, as a white woman?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think that should have never been published, and I think it's unfortunate it did. I think what's more important here right now are the real issues in the world. And if we go back to, Epstein and dealing with
racism, not a real issue. He's the president of the United States.
I don't think. I'm not saying
trope.
Racism is not an issue. I don't think that was intended. What I'm saying, and I think if you would just hear me out, is that was not intended to be racist.
But it was racist, whether what his intention or otherwise.
Well, as we know, certain people take things different ways, and it's unfortunate that came out and it's been taken off, as far as I know.
Why wouldn't he apologize? I mean, it would mean something so much to those people, black Americans, who find it gross that their president, because he's their president, that he wouldn't just say sorry. It would mean nothing to him, but it would mean everything to them.
I agree. I think it would be great if he could say something like he backpedaled on Afghanistan as well. I think those remarks were terrible as well. But he's slow, unfortunately, to acknowledge those mistakes. It's unfortunate.
It's like if someone attacked you or used a trope as you as being a woman, it wouldn't mean the same thing to me because I'm a man. Like, it only works when specific people are targeted for what they're targeted for.
I understand what you're saying. And again, as I'm saying, because it wasn't intended to be racist and it came out, and for many people it will be considered racist, and I think it's unfortunate.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It'd be best just to give an apology.
I agree. Well,
let's move on to bigger issues.
For the benefit of the listeners who won't have heard it or seen it, let's just play the clip so they can hear it. So you can see that there. Would you say that looks intentionally racist?
Without seeing what's coming next.
Well, that's it.
It's a cartoon, and then you're going to say, what are the cartoons? People make cartoons. What are they trying to make a cartoon about?
Let us start with the Epstein argument, because it is the one that collapses first and most completely. Naughton came in with a specific strategy. Frame Trump as the anti-establishment outsider who promised to release the Epstein files and is fighting the corrupt elite that protected Epstein for decades. It is a clean argument on the surface. The problem is the first thing Goodall said after she finished making it. Trump is in the files repeatedly. And that single fact dismantles the entire framing, because you cannot simultaneously be the man exposing the elite and the man who spent decades socializing with the most famous predator that elite ever produced. Naughton never answered this contradiction. She pivoted to saying Trump was not accused of sexual misconduct, which was not the question. The question was, how can someone who was part of that world claim to be fighting it? She never answered it because there is no clean answer. Then Trump told people to move on from the Epstein story. The same Trump who promised transparency and releasing the files. Goodall pointed out the contradiction immediately. If you want transparency, why are you telling everyone to stop talking about it? Again, no clean answer. Because there is no clean answer. The Epstein positioning is not about justice for victims. It is about political branding. And the moment you look at it clearly, that is exactly what it reveals itself to be. Then there is the victim response moment, which is the most morally serious part of the entire interview. When CNN's Caitlin Collins asked Trump what he had to say to the survivors and victims of Jeffrey Epstein's abuse, the President of the United States responded by asking her why she does not smile more and criticizing her ratings. Not a word about the victims. Not a word about the abuse. Just an attack on the woman asking the question. Naughton called it tactless. Goodall was right to push back on that word immediately. Tactless is when you make a joke at the wrong moment. Tactless is when you forget someone's name. What Trump did was ignore the suffering of abuse survivors on camera and use their moment to attack a female journalist instead. That is not tactless. That is a statement about whose pain matters and whose does not. And then there is the video. The dancing apes video. The one depicting Barack and Michelle Obama as apes. Naughton's first defense was that Joe Biden was also in the video as an ape, so it cannot be racist. That logic does not work, and Goodall explained exactly why. Racist tropes target specific people for specific reasons rooted in specific history. The ape trope has been used against black people specifically for centuries. It was used by slave traders to dehumanize enslaved people. It was used by segregationists to justify denying black Americans their civil rights. It was used to justify lynchings. The fact that a white politician also appeared in the same video does not change what that imagery means when it is directed at black people. Goodall made this point with complete clarity, and Naughton had no answer for it. Her next defense was that it was not intended to be racist. Goodall's response to this was exactly right. Intent does not determine impact. A video that deploys imagery with centuries of racist history behind it causes the same harm regardless of whether the person who posted it understood what they were doing. And even if we accept that Trump's team did not understand the history of the imagery they were sharing, which is itself a damning statement about the people running the communications of the most powerful office in the world, the question then becomes, why has Trump not apologized to the millions of black Americans who are also his citizens and who were hurt by seeing that imagery come from their president? Naughton admitted an apology would mean everything to those people. She could not explain why it has not happened. Because there is no explanation that does not ultimately come back to the same uncomfortable truth about who this administration considers its audience and who it does not. By the end of the interview, Naughton had conceded that the video should not have been posted, that Trump's response to Epstein's victims was offensive, and that an apology would be meaningful. She had come in to defend Trump and ended up agreeing with almost everything Goodall said while never once directly answering the questions he actually asked. That is what happens when you come prepared with talking points and the person across from you just keeps asking the same question in different ways until the talking points run out. Lewis Goodall never raised his voice. He never got personal. He just kept asking. And that is exactly how it should be done. This is Fool's Ballot. Hit the like button, drop your thoughts in the comments below, subscribe to the channel if you are not already there, and share this one widely, because the history behind that video deserves to be understood, not dismissed as quirky. I will see you in the next one.